Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the channel. So just a few days ago, Xiaomi unveiled a brand new concept smartphone on their YouTube channel. It's called the Xiaomi 12S Ultra concept and a lot of people are excited about it. Gyan Therapy made a video on it and obviously people should be excited about it because this prospect is really amazing. So what is the Xiaomi 12S Ultra concept? It is basically a Xiaomi 12S Ultra phone with its 1-inch sensor exposed. Why is it exposed? It is exposed so that you can attach a Leica M Mount to the back of the phone, and that will allow you to attach any Leica M series lens to the phone, essentially converting this whole package into an interchangeable mirrorless camera running on an Android smartphone body. But do you know, this is not really a concept because this has already been done in the past and was brought into market by one company. And since you have already read the title of this video and you have seen the thumbnail, let me introduce you to the Samsung NX way back from 2013. A full-fledged mirrorless camera with an APS-C sensor with interchangeable lens support running on Android 4.2 with all the bells and whistles like 4G LTE connectivity, internal storage, quad-core processor and all the bells and whistles present in any smartphone. So this was already done way back in the day. And guys, since most people do not know about the Samsung NX, we can already tell that it was one of Samsung's many failed experiments. It was the right product, it was very innovative, but it was just released at the wrong time. It was just too ahead of its time. One of the most popular camera channels on YouTube, Tony and Chelsea Northrup, called the Samsung NX the camera of the decade because they tried to do something way back in the day that we want to do today. So in this video, we will talk a little bit about the Samsung NX and how this concept of merging a smartphone with a proper sensor and interchangeable lens system is such an amazing prospect. Alright guys, without any further ado, let's get right into the video. So let's talk about the Samsung NX. So the Samsung NX is basically a full-fledged mirrorless camera with an APS-C sensor. An APS-C sensor is much bigger than a 1-inch sensor is present in the Xiaomi 12S Ultra. A 1-inch sensor has about a 2.7 times crop factor compared to a full-frame sensor, whereas an APS-C sensor has about a 1.5 times crop factor compared to a full-frame sensor. So you can already tell that an APS-C sensor is much bigger than a 1-inch sensor. The current camera that I'm filming on, the Sony a6100, has an APS-C sensor. So the Samsung NX has a very large APS-C sensor with interchangeable lens support that could take Samsung's NX mount lenses. The whole body was powered by Android 4.2 and some quad-core processor, probably the same quad-core processor that was used in the Galaxy S4. I think it had 2 GB of RAM and it ran the full TouchWiz 4.2 user experience from back in the day. So all the usual TouchWiz features were present in the camera. It also had like 16 GB of internal storage, micro SD card support and 4G LTE connectivity. And it also had a pretty big battery which gave this camera quite good battery life according to the reviews. So essentially it was basically a Samsung Galaxy S4 smartphone connected to a full-fledged mirrorless camera sensor, an APS-C sensor with interchangeable lens support. Exactly something that Xiaomi is trying to do with the Xiaomi 12S Ultra concept. A little bit more about the Samsung NX. I've seen in the reviews, people have said that the Samsung NX is actually a quite capable mirrorless camera. It had a 20 megapixel APS-C sensor and it was really good in terms of actual photo capabilities. It was quite fast, it could shoot like 9 FPS JPEGs and it could also handle low light situations quite well. 20 megapixels in an APS-C sensor means the pixel size is quite big. As a result, the photos coming out of the Samsung NX even in quite low light was quite good. The Samsung NX mount also had some really innovative lenses. For example, the most innovative of them being the Samsung 16 to 50mm kit lens, but it had an aperture of f2 to f2.8. Just to give you a context, there hasn't been any lens produced by any brand that has a range of 16 to 50mm and an aperture as fast as f2 to f2.8 till now. For example, the kit lens that comes with my Sony a6100 is a 16 to 50mm lens but an aperture of f3.5 to f5.6, much slower, which means in low light it is much worse. Also, it doesn't provide as much background blur as it could compared to the Samsung lens way back in the day. So from what I'm saying, you can already understand that the Samsung NX was a pretty revolutionary camera, but it was just that it was too ahead of its time. So let's discuss why the Samsung NX failed. The number one reason is that Samsung tried to promote this one less as a smartphone and more as a camera. Samsung promoted this one as a proper mirrorless camera that was powered by Android and providing you all the benefits of Android with the performance of an APS-C sensor with interchangeable lenses. But the problem was the market at that time was completely dominated by DSLRs from Canon and Nikon. And guys, cameras are more of an investment. You buy the body and then you invest on lenses. And at that point of time, it was very difficult to convince the market to invest in Samsung lenses over the massive history of lenses from Canon and Nikon. So it was very difficult even for a huge brand like Samsung to take customers from Canon and Nikon. And basically Samsung couldn't survive in that market. Also, the second point is that mirrorless cameras from that era was not really considered as good as DSLRs, because at that time DSLRs were still considered superior to mirrorless cameras, mainly because most professional DSLRs were full frame and there were very few full frame mirrorless camera sensors, and generally full frame cameras were considered superior to APS-C cameras because of the larger sensor. Not entirely true in my opinion, but it is what the perception of the market was. Also, mirrorless cameras from back in the day wasn't considered to be as good at focusing compared to DSLR cameras of that era. As a result, people were not really convinced with mirrorless cameras and perceived mirrorless cameras as lower quality. And the third point in my opinion, which is probably one of the most important points, is that the USP of the camera of the Samsung NX back in the day was not appealing. The Samsung NX, what was it? It was a mirrorless camera powered by Android, which means you can get the advantages of a large sensor, interchangeable lenses, and you are always connected to the internet, and you can always have the benefits and advantages that Android brought alongside it. The Samsung NX had 4G LTE connectivity, Wi-Fi, everything. However, at that point of time, the whole world was not really that much online as compared to today. In today's world, there is an infinitely greater amount of people online compared to people back in 2013. Compared to today, data plans back in 2013 was much more expensive. And so this feature of always being connected was kind of irrelevant because people were not connected back in the day. So the point I'm getting to is that the Samsung NX was the right product. It could have been something really big today, and it could have changed the world of mirrorless cameras, but it was just too ahead of its time and Samsung gave up. And the fourth reason is that Samsung saw the opportunity with the success of the Galaxy S3 and the S4 that smartphones were the future. People don't need to carry a dedicated piece of hardware for taking pictures because smartphones were getting good enough, even back in 2013, 2014. So Samsung just saw that the business opportunity with cameras isn't that great, and camera market is shrinking and shrinking. Even today guys, camera market is actually very small. Only a few companies are fighting among themselves with that small chunk of pie. So Samsung just saw that cameras wasn't going to be that profitable, and so they just left cameras and went back into smartphones, and as a result they are one of the leading brands in smartphones. But it would have been great if the Samsung NX would have been successful. Today we wouldn't have these kind of dumb sort of mirrorless cameras. We would have had smart mirrorless cameras, but till this day that hasn't happened. So let's talk about why this concept of adding a smartphone to a mirrorless camera is so enticing, especially today. So in today's world, everybody wants to be a content creator, everybody wants to be online, everybody wants to have a social presence. And as a result, having a camera connected to a smartphone or a smartphone connected to a camera is really amazing, because all you have to take pictures. Like you've already got all your editing softwares, like whether it is photo editing or video editing, everything is at hand. You don't have to transfer your photos from your camera to your computer, edit there and then upload. You don't have to do that. You also have the advantages of smartphone processing. See, mirrorless cameras that we are currently using today, like for example, I'm using the Sony a6100, these cameras depend a lot on the sensor for the images. There is very little post-processing going on with mirrorless cameras or DSLRs. What you see through the viewfinder is what you get. But with the power of smartphone processors and high quality, high-end image signal processing, it is possible to enhance the photos taken by cameras to the next level. For example, night mode. When you take your mirrorless camera out in the low light, you have to have a very fast lens. For example, I am shooting on an f1.4 lens, which is suited for low light. But let's say you don't have an f1.4 lens, you have an f3.5 lens. Then it is going to be very difficult for your mirrorless camera to shoot a good quality low light picture because it will be very noisy. Since the aperture is so small, there is less light entering the sensor, and as a result, you have to increase the ISO, making the image very noisy. However, with smartphones, you can just shoot a multi-exposure night mode image that will be stacked together by the phone itself and providing you with a great low light image. Now imagine using that image signal processor to take an image out of an APS-C or a 1-inch sensor. So you can understand how much better the image quality will be if you're able to merge the smartphone with a real camera. You can utilize the very powerful hardware of a real camera with a large sensor and large aperture lens. You can enhance that with the image signal processor of a modern smartphone. The other great advantage of having such a device is you don't need a fake portrait mode or a fake video portrait mode, because now you have a large sensor and a large aperture lens, which means you can get natural background blur. For example, you can see the background of my video, right? It is very well blurred out because I'm having a large sensor, an APS-C sensor, and also a very wide aperture f1.4 lens, which is creating this beautiful background blur. You don't need any kind of fake portrait mode or fake video portrait mode, which is very difficult to do in real time. So these are some of the benefits that will come about if we are able to successfully merge a smartphone to a real camera. It could have been possible with the Samsung NX if it had caught on, but it didn't. So let's see if Xiaomi is successful with the 12S Ultra concept in the future. Alright guys, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you're new to the channel, then please subscribe and turn on notifications. If you like this video, then definitely hit the like button and comment down below what you think about the Xiaomi 12S Ultra concept. Alright guys, take care and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.